Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're going to tackle a sport you probably think you know, but trust me, its backstory has some pretty wild twists. We are, of course, talking about softball. Okay, let's just get right to the big question, the one that I'm sure we've all wondered about. The ball is hard. The field is hard. So why on earth is it called softball? Well, to get that answer, we've got to rewind the clock all the way to the very beginning. And that beginning is, well, it's pretty bizarre. We're talking about a journey that starts not with a bat and ball, but with a boxing glove. Yeah, you heard me right. A boxing glove is literally at the heart of this whole story. So get this, the whole thing started as a complete accident. Picture it, Thanksgiving Day, 1887, inside the Farragut Boat Club in Chicago. A bunch of people are crowded around, waiting to hear who won the Yale-Harvard football game. When Yale is announced the winner, an excited alum playfully grabs a boxing glove and just chucks it at a Harvard fan. But the Harvard guy, without missing a beat, grabs a broom handle and swings at the glove. A reporter named George Hancock shouts, "Play ball!" And just like that, an impromptu game of what they called indoor baseball breaks out. It actually wasn't until 1926 that the name softball finally stuck, and it was a huge tournament at the 1933 Chicago World's Fair that really launched it into the big time. And the best part? That very first game ended with a score of 41-40. Just think about that. This wasn't some polished, strategic sport. It was just pure, chaotic, high-scoring fun that popped up out of absolutely nowhere. So, how in the world did that wild indoor game become the sport we recognize today? Well, it really comes down to a few fundamental things that separate it from its famous cousin, baseball. And it all starts with the most obvious differences: a bigger ball on a smaller field. The key distinctions are pretty straightforward when you lay them out. In softball, the ball is way bigger and the field is more compact. But the biggest difference, the real game changer, is the pitching. It is strictly underhand from flat ground. Now you compare that to baseball with its smaller ball, that sprawling field, and the iconic overhand pitch from a raised mound. These differences create a totally unique pace and style of play. And let's focus on that smaller field for a minute. The distance between the bases in softball is a standard 60 feet. That compressed space makes everything happen so much faster. The throws are shorter, the runners have less ground to cover, and the whole game becomes one of incredibly quick reflexes. But if you had to pick the single most important rule in softball, it's this right here, the underhand pitch. The rules are very clear. The ball has to be released with the hand below the ball. This isn't just a stylistic choice. It creates a completely different flight path and delivery than an overhand throw, and it fundamentally shapes every single at-bat. But underhand pitching itself isn't one size fits all. That one rule has actually evolved into two distinct flavors of the sport. You've got fast pitch and you've got slow pitch. The difference is really all about competition versus recreation. Fast pitch is that hyper-competitive version you see in the Olympics or in college. It's dominated by the pitcher, who uses a full windmill motion to hurl the ball at speeds that can top 70 miles per hour. On the other hand, you have slow pitch. This is the game most of us have probably played in a park or a company league. The pitch is a high-arcing lob, which makes the game completely dominated by hitting and offense. And the pitching distances are actually set up to reflect these different goals. In fast pitch, the mound is closer, as close as 35 feet for younger players, which really amplifies the effect of that speed. But slow pitch mounds are pushed back to 50 feet for adults, giving that high arc the space it needs to drop right into the strike zone. Okay, so we've got the history and the setup, but what does an actual game look like? Let's quickly break down an inning in action. The core of defense is all about getting 3 outs, and there are 3 really common ways to do it. First, the strikeout, where the batter gets 3 strikes. Second is the flyout, where a fielder catches a batted ball in the air. And third, you've got the force out, where a fielder with the ball just has to touch a base before a runner who has no other choice but to run there can make it. So how does it all come together? Well, teams take turns batting and fielding for 7 rounds, which are called innings. Each team tries to get 3 outs when they're on defense, and then they try to score as many runs as possible when they're batting, all before the other team can get them out. It's as simple as that. But this game, born from a boxing glove, has grown so far beyond just local parks. It's become a massive global sport. So let's take a look at its journey from the picnic all the way to the Olympics. A standard team has 9 players out on the field. You've got the battery, that's the pitcher and catcher who control the game. Then you have the infielders guarding the bases, and finally, the 3 outfielders patrolling the grass. Every single position is a crucial part of a coordinated defense. Now, softball has had a real roller coaster relationship with the Olympic Games. It made a huge debut as a women's sport in 1996. But then, in a really controversial move, it was dropped after the 2008 Games. After a long fight, it came back for the Tokyo Olympics in 2021 and is now slated for another comeback in Los Angeles in 2028, which is a true testament to its global appeal. And that appeal is just massive. Just look at this number. An estimated 14.6 million Americans played softball in a single season. From fiercely competitive travel teams to casual after-work beer leagues, it's a sport that truly has a place for absolutely everyone. And that kind of brings us to our final thought. With rules that can be easily modified, a pace that keeps everyone engaged, and versions that can favor either elite pitching or casual hitting, could softball be the world's most adaptable team sport? It's something to think about the next time you hear the unmistakable sound of that not-so-softball.